Welcome back to the program. Let's go. Line number 2. Paulette, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fine, thanks. How about you?
I'm doing well, and I'm really glad to be able to call you this morning because it took me a couple of days to get my nerve up to give you a call because I have called a couple of times in the past, but when I do call, I'm feeling really passionate, and I just wanted to let your listeners know that I was a protester the first week of November when we protested on Confederation Hill with regard to the proposed wind turbine, ammonia and hydrogen facilities coming to our area. I went in for 2 days, and I thought to myself, well, if my parents were alive, they would be mortified that here's their daughter standing on Confederation Hill protesting. But you see, Patty, I do worry about the future of my grandchildren and my children. And so I felt compelled to go. Anyway, I just attended for the last couple of days of that protest. And when I went in, I rubbed shoulders with people from Port Rexton, Port-au-Port, Buren, Corner Brook, all the areas had representatives there of people who were dissatisfied, not so much against the turbines, but against the irresponsible development, and that's what I have to say. But having said that, in the 2 days I was there were MHAs going in and out, receptionists going in and out, and not once were we recognized in any way. Not that I really expected that, but, a good morning or it's a cold morning would have been nice. But anyway, to pretend we were invisible was a little bit much. But finally, at the end of the second day, Paul Lane came out, and an independent, of course, from Mount Pearl and Southlands, and he asked us if he could be of any help. And we were totally, relieved. And we had a petition there with over 30,000 signatures that we wanted presented and registered in the House. And so he said he would do that for us. So we were given permission to go in and watch that. So around 2 o'clock on the last day, we filed in and sat quietly. And I have to say that the days I was there, we were respectful. There was no name calling. We were polite. And it was a very peaceful protest. And anyway, Paul Lane stood in the House. But what I did observe when I went in there, being from St. John's myself, I noticed that, and I've been in Confederation many times, but here they were, all the politicians, and I'm not zeroing in on one. I have to say all of them, or most of them, from the opposition party and the governing party, sat there playing on their phones, talking when somebody else was talking, laughing and giggling, and I thought, okay, I'm a retired teacher. This is the kind of behavior you'd get in a high school class, you know what I mean? But anyway, finally Paul Lane stood up and he presented the petitions, and we were very thankful to him because he did say when he came out on the steps, he said, look, he said, this is not an issue in my writing. He said, but, and his words were, I do believe in democracy, and I believe you should have a voice. And, that was the words. They meant it was worth $1 million to us. And he did say, he said, I don't know a lot about this, but I do believe in democracy, and I will do this for you. And he went up there in my books. He really did. And he was very much of a gentleman. But anyway, after he presented the petition, Minister Andrew Parson stood up, and this is what I think hurt me more than anything. He was responding to the signatures, but in front of him he had a newsletter from the group Protect NL, and on that newsletter there was a picture of a veteran. And, I knew why the picture was there. Everybody that was present knew why the picture was there. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you why the picture was there. And I really believe that the group believed that veterans have fought for our freedom. And the first thing he said was how disrespectful, he said, to have a picture, he said, of a veteran on the cover of this letter. And I thought to myself, you've got to be kidding me. You don't know why that's there? And then he went on to say, picking holes and why we were there and one thing and another. And he did say at one point he promised legislation on these projects. But then I thought to myself after I left, you talk about disrespectful. When the EA registration report came out, those comments had to be in on the 11th of November. There's disrespect. It could have been the 10th of November, the 12th of November, but the 11th of November, there, in my eyes, was a disrespect. So, Patty, I just wanted to approach this from a humanitarian perspective. I want to tell you I have an education. I've done my due diligence. We've raised a family. We've had a home. And I have followed this project ever since December last year, and I have been doing my due diligence. I have written letters, I have attended meetings, protests, rallies, I've made phone calls, but the one thing that stands out is the silence of this government. There's never a comment, there's never an answer in any way, shape, or form, and that's disappointing because, like Paul Lane did say, we are in a democracy, and nobody is expecting anyone to take sides here. Everybody's expecting their voices to be heard. That's all. That's all we're expecting.
Are people not getting answers or simply don't like the answers they're getting? Because they're kind of two different things.
Oh, I agree with you, Patty, 100%. But I can only speak from my perspective. I have never... And I can tell you, with no fear of contradiction, that I have written at least 50 letters at all levels, municipal, provincial, up the line, and in response, nothing, not even an auto reply. So now we have it that after we got our responses in, our comments in on the 11th of November, now that has been postponed till the 6th of December from Lisa Dempster. And I only got that from a post that was posted. I am part of the Protect NL, not in a big way. I'm a part of all the groups that give me information. And my research has no bounds. And I can speak about this with the best of them.
Okay, Paul, let me ask you a question. So,
sure.
Like, for instance, I spoke with Brenda Kitchen a few days ago, and I asked her, what are some specific questions that you can't get answers to? And she mentioned fire services. And so I went back to the environmental impact statement, and I found the section regarding fire services. And there was a plethora of information there about what the proponent is going to have to do and the government control over. So is there a specific question that you have that you haven't been able to get an answer to?
Well, Patty, I'm glad you brought that one up, because even though you went back and got the answer, when you talk about the fire services, I live in a community that there's 10 communities here beyond where the industrial facility is going to be going. That's the ammonia and hydrogen plant. That is on the highway exiting all these 10 communities. There is no emergency response plan in place. And you are right, it was mentioned. It was mentioned that there would be training for firemen and bunker suits and on and on and on, but only for the workers of these projects. And that's where the response is going to be. I don't know if the 10 communities are responsible for their own, but heaven forbid, if there's ever a leak or an explosion. We have 3 schools here that are well full. We have a hospital. We have a long-term facility. Nobody would have time to be evacuated because this facility is only going 5 kilometers from the highway. That's the buffer zone, 5 kilometers. So you see, Patty, even though you did see an answer in that EA, that is only for people working in the facility.
But the government has full control here. It doesn't even matter what the proponent wants on this front. The government can dictate exactly what needs to be in place for fire services, period. Whether it be for turbines, the electrolysis plant, the ammonia plant, who has to be trained, 24/7 presence, all of those things are completely 100% up to the government.
Of course. But the government has been silent, Patty. They've been silent, and our comments that have gone in, for example, I mentioned, there were so many red flags in that. It took me 10 days to read the document. But there were so many red flags. But I just pinpointed 5, and another one was a decommissioning. You know, in most facilities, when these turbines, and turbines are not the biggest of my concerns, but when these are decommissioned, there's no plan for that. In the EA report, it said they would go in a landfill. Patty, the magnitude of just one of these turbines, they'll go in a landfill? Come on. Like, there's not going to be enough land left around here in this area with 530 turbines proposed, and the people will not. They have no idea what's coming. I have no idea what's coming. But when I hear of a 600-foot turbine going in my neighborhood, and there's 530 of them coming here, sure, there's not going to be any land left. What land is left there for decommissioning and for a landfill and for any dead animals that will have gathered up? So, Patty, you know, there's so many things. There's so many things, and it's unanswered questions. It's secrecy. It's just a silence. It's just a silence. There's no conversation. There's no engaging with the people. And when I looked at those MHAs that day, and I thought, you know, here we have you all sitting silently when your constituents are out here, and we have to have an independent present this petition when you can't come out and say good morning. And we did look ridiculous. We had layers of clothing, and you know, heaven knows, up on Confederation Hill, it was freezing. If there was a turbine up there, they'd have no problem with wind. We looked like marshmallows, really. When we went and sat in the house, we saw politicians rolling their eyes. Okay, fine, we looked ridiculous. But, you know, we were out there fighting for something they should have been doing. And that's how I feel.
But decommissioning, like, I don't know if you heard Minister Parsons on this program this week, but every single time...
I heard him, yes.
But, I mean, we addressed that issue, and we've done it every single conversation I've had with Minister Parsons about these proposals, about decommissioning, and especially the cost, the whole concept of polluter pays. And he has said every single time that there will be contractual obligations and money up front to cover decommissioning. So we should not be on the hook if those liabilities are covered. And there's a variety of ways you can do that inside the contract. But I'll let you have a couple more seconds to react to that before I do have to go.
Okay, Patty. So, yeah, I will clue up by saying I did listen to Minister Parsons when he called in, and he answered some of your questions, not all of them, to my satisfaction. However, we did get answers that day. Thank God for Patty Daly and Open Line and VOCM, because that is the only voice that's being heard. I don't expect anybody, again, like I said, to take sides. Just listen to people. That's all we're asking. And just for a voice. And I am looking forward to the day when these comments will be addressed. And up until the day we went to Confederation Building and attended the House, we did not know there was going to be legislation. We did not know. And we did not know about the decommissioning until your program. So, you know, that's a pretty rough, shoddy way to you know, do business, I think. And it's only from my perspective, Patty. So, and my purpose was just to call and to draw attention that even though there's many technicalities and there's many aspects of this project, there's things that the ordinary folk can see. And those are the things, the silence and the non-answers and the secrecy and being ignored. So that's my piece for today, Patty, and I hope you have a great weekend.
The same to you. Thanks for the call, Paulette.
And thank you very much for your time, Patty.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.